Getting into the back of an Uber has just become so muscle memory that we don't even really think about it. I mean, when you hop in the back of a rideshare, like where do you sit? Do you sit front seat, back seat, passenger side, driver side? It's likely not something that you've given a lot of thought to, but where you sit in a rideshare is a decision that could literally save your life. Every time you get in a rideshare, you're trusting a stranger to get you from point A to point B. But trust in the service doesn't mean checking your awareness at the door. I mean, most of us, myself included, slide into the back of the car without even giving it a second thought. But the truth is, not all seats, not all back seats especially, are created equal. Statistically speaking, the safest place in a car is directly behind the driver. One, because instinctively, the driver will always protect their side of the car first. It's like hardwired into all of our own, sense of self-protection. So being behind the driver gives you that extra advantage. Privacy-wise, being behind the driver also makes it more difficult for them to observe you because of the way that the rear view mirror is situated. It is situated in such a way that they see out the middle of the back window, plus a little bit to the right, because they can't see to the left because their head's in the way. And third, sitting behind the driver is a bit of a safety buffer because I can reach back and right, but I really have to contort myself to get back and left. And if I am reaching back that way, you're like almost in a perfect position to, dislocate my shoulder. So the safest place in an Uber is behind the driver, no question, for those three very reasons. And so keep that in mind. The next time you call a rideshare, don't just get in, but be smart about it because awareness plus preparation equals safety. So live smart, stay safe. I get asked about elevator safety all the time. And I tell people, like, you're not imagining things. Like, elevators are one of the most overlooked high-risk spaces we step into every day. Most of us, if we are in an elevator by ourselves, don't even think about it. It's not until someone steps in that we almost instinctively move to the back and kind of allow that person to occupy the front. It's almost like a first in, last out hypothesis, which really makes no sense. But in a box with no exits, that choice can make a big difference. From a protective strategy vantage point, the safest place to stand in an elevator is in front of the buttons. Because if you are in an elevator and someone makes you feel uneasy or unsafe or worse, your position can mean the difference between being trapped and being in control. And so standing in front of the buttons gives you three immediate advantages. One, you can control the alarm. Two, you can open the doors at any time and get out fast. And three, when the doors slide open, you're already in a direct path to safety. So yeah, I mean, even though the elevators are quite literally only going up and down, where you stand has a huge impact on whether or not and how effectively you can get out. If you're standing there in front of the buttons, you can button hook out if someone walks in, makes you feel unsafe or unsure. When in doubt, get out. And the other thing is, while you're waiting for the elevator, always kind of use the angles to your advantage because you don't ever want to be in a position where someone could just like reach out and grab you and pull you in. You also don't want to be in a position where you get bum rushed as people are coming out. So just something to keep in mind. Tired of long airport lines? Big news just dropped today, so here is your insight into a smoother airport security experience. TSA and CLEAR are teaming up on a new eGate pilot program that let CLEAR Plus members just scan and go, no agent needed. How does it work? You scan your boarding pass, the camera takes your photo, it does a 1-to-1 match in 3 to 6 seconds, and you're let right ahead to TSA security. Now, the pilot program just rolled out in Atlanta this week with plans to roll it out next week to DCA, Reagan National, and Seattle Tacoma. And of course, this is all part of the security ramp up and infrastructure bolstering for the 2026 World Cup and the America 250 celebration. According to the reports, CLEAR is footing the bill for all of this, so no taxpayer dollars at stake. And of course, TSA still retains full command and control over who can bypass the security screening. And according to this, CLEAR can't override gate decisions or access watch lists. Your biometric data stays limited to what's needed for your ID checks, and they say that this will make travel faster and more seamless, especially during busy times. The CLEAR CEO says that this is all about enhancing frictionless travel and making airports great again. So if you're planning to fly anytime soon, and if you are a CLEAR Plus member, keep an eye out for the e-gate at Atlanta, DCA, and Seattle Tacoma, and save time at every step. Safe travels. I don't know about you, but I have TSA Pre plus CLEAR, and sometimes that line is longer than just like the regular general boarding line. So I, for one, am very curious to see how this all plays out. Let's see how they do. There have been a few recent attacks in Houston on women running the trail. Trail running should be freeing and not fearful. And I know there's been these attacks in Houston that have gotten everyone a little on edge, but there are, some safety strategies that everyone can employ to help keep yourself safe. Because listen, I love trail running. It's the fresh air, it's nature, it's amazing. But let's be real, the trails can also put you at risk if you are not prepared. So here are 5 quick ways to protect yourself while running the trail. Number 1, tell someone before you go. The more informed your audience, the safer you will be, because if people are expecting you to only be gone an hour and then you check in once you get back, they don't have to worry. But people should know that if you are going to be out on your own, that there should be a time and condition and a standard set in place to, check in. Like we used to do this all the time when we were in the service. We would have like mandatory check-ins, like every couple hours or once a day or whatever it was. And, if you missed one check-in, okay, things happen. If you missed 2, we're sending in a quick reaction force. So I'm not saying you need to be that militaristic or diligent, but someone should know like where you are. They don't need to know like exactly where you are and who you're with and like what you're doing, but like, hey, I'm going out for a run. I'll be back in an hour. Fine. Like, let someone know. Number 2, stay aware of your surroundings. No blasting music. Keep one ear open. And pay attention to things like footsteps and wildlife and anything else that's unusual, especially if it's a trail that you know well. Who does what, where, when, why, how, and with who, so that you are very familiar with the everyday baseline so that the anomalies become much more apparent. Number 3, trust your gut. I know we talk about this all the time. There's a difference between and when I say trust your gut, I don't mean listen to your gut. Everyone can listen to their gut. A lot of people disregard it. So do not negotiate against your own sense of self-defense. Remember that being polite is a courtesy, but protecting yourself is a priority. Number 4, tools matter. Pepper spray, discreet stabbing tool like a Ronin 1. Having something in your hand just brings a protective posture that not only keeps you more in control, but also shows to a potential bad guy that they will have a much higher likelihood of success targeting someone else that is least likely to give them any kind of a fight. And number 5, stick to visible routes. Like avoid isolated trails at dawn or dusk or in the dark or when visibility is low. But when in doubt, have a plan, know where to go and know how to get there. Identify safe havens, know if you're on a route where your cell phone's going to have good communication. And just all most of us ever need to succeed in staying safe is a healthy sense of skepticism and a moderate dose of vigilance. We don't need to be on this fringe of the pendulum swinging between nothing's going to happen and patting down grandma at the ballpark. Like everyday safety just requires this really basic baseline of participating in your own protection. And listen, Trail running should be freeing and fun and invigorating and grounding and one with nature. So protect yourself, because the more you protect yourself, especially when you're running the trail, the only thing you'll have to worry about chasing you is your personal run time. And that's good for everyone. You know, when I was growing up, I got two educations. I got the one in the classroom and I got the one on the street. Today's children are living in a different world. More than ever, children don't just need protection, they need preparation. And one of the biggest concerns I hear from parents is that, one, they don't know when to introduce certain topics into their child's life because they don't want to take away their innocence or their childhood too soon. But on the flip side, it's almost like they wish they had done it sooner because by the time they do bring it up, it's almost too late. And some parents are very anxious about not knowing exactly what to say to their children when those questions arise. And one of the things I always recommend is anytime your child comes to you with a question, that is an opportunity for you to establish yourself as a trusted source of information for your child. And if you do not know the answer to the question, that's fine. My grandfather used to always say, listen, you know what? I don't know, but by tomorrow, we're both going to know. And then he would set aside a time for us to sit down and either research it together or find an encyclopedia or go to the library or phone a friend. And you can do the same thing. If your child comes to you with a question and you're not exactly sure how you want to answer, it's perfectly appropriate to say to them, hey, you know what? That's a really good question. I would like to give it the time and the attention that conversation needs. So how about we talk about it at dinner tonight? And that basically does three things for you. One, it validates the child's question. Two, it establishes you as someone that is willing and open and knowledgeable enough to have that conversation with them. And three, it buys you time. So if you need to phone a friend or go on YouTube or hit up ChatGPT or go on Google and find out the information that you need to effectively articulate an answer to your child's question, you have now established yourself as a trusted source of information that child will feel confident coming to you with questions in the future that will be much more involved and of much larger concern. But if you kind of shirk that responsibility now, you are kind of almost like programming to them to not come to you in the future. And that can really have some real consequences later down the line. So anything you can do as a parent to protect, but also more importantly, prepare and to establish yourself as a trusted source of information for your child, the better you and your child will be, because an empowered child is a confident child, and a confident child is a safe child, because that child will have the confidence to not negotiate against what they know is true. Because at the end of the day, keeping kids safe isn't about following the rules. It's about championing resilience and connection and confidence. It's about empowering them to know what to do when moments matter most. When you show them that you care, you build the foundation for them to come back to you later in life with even more challenging questions. And that is the fostering of a relationship and the development of a dynamic that will carry them through the rest of their life. I have a 10-year-old nephew and an 8-year-old niece, and every time I visit with them, I learn something new. Kids today are living in two worlds, the real one and the digital. And the truth is, the digital world is much more dangerous than a lot of people think, especially parents. I don't think a lot of parents really realize just how much is out there in the digital realm that their kids are playing with. There's this new game, Roblox, and it's basically a game that anyone can create and invite anyone to play. And it is an environment where millions of strangers can interact with your child. Is that really cool? Yes. Is that really creative? Absolutely. Does that also come with like a lot of real world risks? You better believe it does. And then you have the AI chatbots, which can feel like a friend, can act like a tutor, can, even provide some confidence to your child. But those, LLMs can also hallucinate, and they're based on an algorithm, that's not really based on the complexity of the human condition and the empathy and the emotion that come into play. And it is not uncommon for some of those AI chatbots to cross a very real boundary that no child should ever be forced to face, which is why protecting kids today isn't just about safety. It's about preparation. Bubble wrapping your kid to protect them from every danger the world will ever present to them is a failure in judgment. Your job as a parent is not to protect your child. It is to prepare your child for the life that they will live. And the tools that will prepare them are confidence, resilience, and distress tolerance. All of those tools will give them the confidence that they need when moments matter most. And how do you do that? You start with the safety talks early. You listen to their fears. You make safety fun. You use everyday moments to teach protective strategy that will become the skill sets they will rely on for the rest of their life. And the best way for you to do that is for you to model the behaviors you want them to follow. They will take their cue from you. They will watch you more than they listen to you. They will follow your lead. If you are anxious, they will be anxious. If you are prepared, so too will they be. Because preparing your child to live their very best life isn't about having them follow the rules. It's about raising them to be ready for the world they will one day live in. So let's help them to live smart and stay safe.